1 year ago, a friend of mine asked me, and I quote, "What the hell is a Metathran?" We were digging through some old boxes of MTG bulk cards looking to build some kitchen table decks on a Thursday night. He had found some copies of Metathran Elite and had no idea what they were. Just the tiniest bit drunk, I proceeded to ramble on for over half an hour, spitting out anything I thought was relevant to the history of the Metathran. Before I could finish my exposition, he interrupted me and jokingly said, "Dude, stop, just make a YouTube video about it." And so I did. Thanks bro, you got me started on this. My first few videos were unpolished to say the least. Poor editing, low sound quality, and overall just weak presentation. But in the last 12 months, I've worked on improving the lore videos I put out, and today I've got over 250 subscribers. Now I know that doesn't really look like a lot, but to me it's an amazing number. More than 200 people are interested in some way in the lore videos I produce. I think that's pretty awesome in its own right. Here we are, a year later. It's the first anniversary of my channel, and I figured I should do something special. A part of me wanted to go back and redo my original Metathran video. Slap some more details in there, produce something of much higher quality. I think at some point I might actually end up doing that. But that's not the video I'm making today. No, for today's video, I'm not doing any lore. I've instead decided to share with you, all of my subscribers who helped this channel grow, my favorite EDH deck. This is my Sliver Queen Commander deck. I built this baby back in 2014-2015, shortly after I started playing Magic the Gathering. I fell in absolute love with the Sliver creature type and how they work together to power up the Hive as a whole. Over the years, I've worked on the deck, fine-tuning and improving it to keep up with my local meta. Even now, I'm always looking for ways to improve the thing. While I don't think it's the best deck I could build, I do think it's the best deck for me. Does that make sense? A little disclaimer before we start. This deck won't be some amazing budget build, but neither will it contain some secret tech you've never heard about before. I built this deck to compete with my local meta, so if you go around building it, it might not perform as well for you as it might for me. Or it'll do better in your hands, who knows. With that out of the way, let's begin. For those who don't know, Sliver Queen is a legendary creature, Sliver. She costs Wooburg and has 7 power and 7 toughness. Her only effect is that, for 2 mana, you can create a colorless Sliver creature token with 1 power and 1 toughness. The Queen is the first legendary Sliver to ever be printed and is, in my opinion, the best of them all. This deck is dedicated to allowing her to use that ability as frequently as possible to quickly amass an infinite army of tokens for the win. To that end, I find redundancy is key. Now before we can get to the combo, I want to make sure I have the mana necessary to pull it off. My deck runs Cultivate, Kodama's Reach, and Skyshrug Claim to help get access to more lands in the early game. Land tax helps me when I'm behind by thinning the deck and adding 3 basic lands to my hand each turn. Crop Rotation is one of my favorite cards here, since for a single green it can help fix my mana base fast. For artifact-based mana acceleration, I employ Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Mana Crypt, Mox Diamond, and Chromatic Lantern. Urza's Incubator isn't really a form of ramp since it doesn't actually produce mana, but it does reduce the cost of my slivers by 2, so for a 3 mana investment it helps me save a lot on casting costs later on. Noble Hierarch and Birds of Paradise aren't slivers, but they both provide amazing turn 1 ramp and are valuable throughout the game. Keenan, Bonder Prodigy, doesn't produce mana on his own, but he does increase the amount produced by any non-land source I tap. This is an incredibly powerful effect, especially in combination with the Queen. His second ability, which costs 7 mana, lets me dig into the top 5 cards of the deck to find a creature I could use. I personally don't use this effect very often, but when I do, it's powerful. Earthcraft and Cryptolith Rite both serve the same purpose in this deck, allowing slivers to tap in order to provide mana. You'll see why this effect is important in a moment. Once I have my mana set up, the deck has a few ways to help me find some combo pieces. I use several actual tutors: Enlightened, Worldly, Vampiric, and Demonic. They're all extremely powerful, but I have others at my disposal too. For 1 white and 1 green mana, Eladamri's Call lets me add any creature in the deck to my hand. Green Sun Zenith is particularly powerful, since it puts creatures directly into play and shuffles itself into the deck after it's resolved, meaning it can theoretically be used several times. For a single green mana, Survival of the Fittest allows me to discard a creature I'm not currently in need of to go and get one that I do. Sensei's Divining Top and Sylvan Library both perform the same duty here. They both allow me to look at the top 3 cards on my library for combo pieces. Growing Rites of Itlimoc lets me look at the top 4 instead, but only does so once. In exchange, once I fulfill its conditions of having 4 creatures on the board, it transforms into a land, which will greatly increase the amount of mana at my disposal. So, now that I've got plenty of mana and ways to search for what I need, what combo exactly am I trying to pull off? Well, it's not really complex. I'm trying to generate infinite slivers using the ability of the Queen. There's a few different ways to do this, and I'm going to outline all of them here. The most common method I utilize involves Sliver Queen alongside any mana generating sliver and a haste providing sliver, as well as a way to sacrifice slivers for mana. For mana, I have Gemhide Sliver and Manawef Sliver. Each of these creatures effectively says the same thing. My slivers are able to tap to generate mana. For haste enabling, I have Heart Sliver, Cloud Shredder Sliver, Firewake Sliver, and Blur Sliver. Any one of these creatures allows my slivers to tap for effects or to attack the turn they come into play. Finally, for sacrificing, I have Basalt Sliver and Ashnod's Altar. Both of these cards allow me to sacrifice a sliver to gain 2 mana. With Sliver Queen on board, alongside a mana generator, a haste enabler, and a sacrifice outlet, I'm able to perform my favorite combo, and here's how it works. With 2 mana, I activate the Queen's ability, which creates a colorless sliver token. Thanks to Manawef Sliver and Heart Sliver being on the board, that token can now tap to add 1 mana to my mana pool. Next, with Basalt Sliver in play, I can sacrifice that tap token to gain 2 mana. For the cost of 2 mana, I have gained 3 mana. I can repeat this process an infinite number of times for infinite mana and infinite sliver tokens, which will now attack for victory. Since there's a lot of interchangeable pieces to this combo, it's pretty difficult for my opponents to completely shut it down. But it's also not a guarantee that I'll always have access to these cards, so I included a few other ways to go infinite as well. If I can't find Basalt Sliver in time, it may be in my best interest to use either Training Grounds or Heartstone. Both of these cards have an effect that allows Sliver Queen to produce a token for only 1 mana. While I won't gain infinite mana this way, I will gain an infinite pile of tap sliver tokens that can proceed to kill my opponents on my next turn if not dealt with. If all I have is Heart Sliver and Ashnod's Altar, I can make use of either Doubling Season or Anointed Procession. Both of these enchantments doubles the amount of tokens generated by an effect I control. So, for 2 mana, I create 2 tokens. I sacrifice one of those tokens to generate 2 mana, which then gets me 2 more tokens. Rinse, repeat, infinite. Intruder Alarm is good if I have at least 2 slivers in play, one of them being Manawef Sliver. I can tap those 2 slivers to activate the Queen, which gives me a token. That token entering the battlefield untaps all of my creatures, allowing me to tap them again, and again, and again, until we've reached the same result. When all I have is a Basalt Sliver standing next to the Queen, Impact Tremors or Lava Belly Sliver can net me a fast win. Both of these cards deal out damage whenever a creature comes into play, and Lava Belly Sliver even gains me life in the process. Pay 2 mana to create a token, that token entering the battlefield does damage to an opponent. Sacrifice the token to make 2 mana, and we're off once again. Finally, let's talk Mana Echoes. Mana Echoes is a beast of a card, since it can go infinite with Sliver Queen on its own. It's a powerful enchantment that costs 2 generic mana and 2 red mana, and it reads, whenever a creature comes into play, you may add 1 mana to your mana pool for each creature you control that shares a creature type with it. What this means, simply, is that if I have Sliver Queen in play alongside any other sliver, I can pay 2 mana to generate a sliver token. That token coming into play will give me 2 mana to use, since I control 2 other slivers already. I'll spend that mana to create a token, which now provides 3 mana. You get the picture, I think. Mana Echoes is one of the strongest cards in the deck for this reason. I'm always excited to draw it. Not every sliver in the deck is a piece of this infinite token engine. I keep a toolbox of utility slivers throughout the 99 that can provide value in all sorts of situations. Whenever they or another sliver enters play, Harmonic Sliver allows me to destroy enchantments and artifacts, while Constricting Sliver lets me temporarily exile any creature I see fit. For 3 mana and the added cost of sacrificing a Sliver, Necrotic Sliver allows me to destroy absolutely any permanent I wish, allowing it to deal with a wide variety of problems. Winged Sliver and Gale Rider Sliver provide evasion in the form of flying, letting my creatures attack over most blockers my opponents might have out. Homing Sliver allows me to trade it for 3 mana to fetch any Sliver I might need, turning it into basically another tutor. Dormant Sliver may give all Slivers Defender, but in exchange, whenever it or another Sliver comes into play, I'm able to draw a card. Quick Sliver provides Flash, letting me make a few unpredictable plays, and Dregscape Sliver gives me the ability to temporarily reuse any Sliver in my graveyard. The Queen's Infinite combo is incredibly powerful when pulled off, so it's only natural that my opponents would like to stop it at any cost. To help protect it, I have 6 more Slivers in the deck, all geared towards providing my pieces some kind of protection until I'm ready to go off. Root Sliver is uncounterable, and provides the same benefit to all other Sliver spells. Crypt Sliver lets my Slivers tap to regenerate a target Sliver, useful when dealing with a board wipe. Ward Sliver gives all Slivers protection from any chosen color, which is amazing when fighting against 3 decks that share a color. When I don't think the board is safe and there's no other options, Hibernation Sliver lets me pay 2 life to return any Sliver to my hand, saving them from all sorts of danger. Crystalline Sliver provides Shroud, and Sliver Hivlord provides Indestructible. Individually, these are very powerful effects, and when in play together, they protect my Slivers from virtually all threats. Whew, I sure have said Sliver a lot, but you can't just make a giant pile of Slivers and call it a deck. Slivers. I've got a handful of non-Sliver cards I utilize as well. For either 1 green or 2 life, Noxious Revival puts any card in my graveyard on top of my deck. Terminate and Sword of Plowshares are both extremely powerful removal options. And then there's Cyclonic Rift, which can clear the way for victory or save me from the grip of defeat, depending on the situation. Now I do play a single counterspell in this deck, Fierce Guardianship, and it has helped protect the Queen several times. Now okay, I lied, there are 2 more Slivers, Overlord and Legion. Overlord is a Sliver tutor all on his own and is one of the most powerful legendary Slivers. Legion, meanwhile, turns my growing army of 1/1 Slivers into a buff army, becoming a great threat for 5 mana. And finally, let's take a look at my lands. This deck runs 35 lands. 11 of them are basics, 2 of each type except for Forest, which has 3. I use all 5 Tarkir fetches and all 10 Shocklands. I only own 5 duels: Savannah, Bayou, Taiga, Plateau, and Tropical Island, and of course all of them are in this deck. Finally, I have 4 lands that can generate a mana of any color. Mana Confluence and Command Tower can do it for any spell, while Sliver Hive and Caverner's Souls are adding mana just for Slivers. Caverner's Souls, of course, has the added benefit of making the Sliver I cast with it uncounterable. So, there you have it, my favorite deck to play in the whole world. I certainly hope you enjoyed it. Once again, I'd like to extend a word of thanks to everyone who's watched my channel grow in this past year. It really does mean a lot to me. Here's hoping you'll stick with me for the years to come, as I continue to explore the lore of Magic the Gathering. Thank you, and have a great day.